All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, yesterday we had an anonymous NFL executive suggest that the Jets trade or at least try to pursue a trade with Tennessee Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill. Now, this is actually a trade idea that we've talked a lot about, right? There's a lot of Jets fans that have seen the Tannehill to the New York Jets trade idea pop up before. Specifically, I remember when it was a major topic right before the Jets went out and traded for Aaron Rodgers, and that was, at the point where, was it going to be Jimmy Garoppolo? Was it going to be Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill? Because with Tannehill, you can, whether you like him or you don't like him, you can draw a lot of different connections here. Now, basically what the executive was saying was pretty much stating the obvious. The Jets need a quarterback. The Jets need offensive help. We cannot just continue to roll Zach Wilson out there and just cross our fingers and hope that it just turns around at some point magically. And then on the Titans end, this is a team that they have some long-term pieces, they have some short-term pieces. What's really the direction right now? Tannehill's owed a lot of money. They have two young quarterbacks behind Ryan in Malik Willis and Will Levis. And Levis was a second-round draft pick this past season. So, I think the thought there is let's move Tannehill, get a draft asset, move forward with one of the young quarterbacks, see what we have in one of these guys. And it's not just one of these, quote unquote mediocre seasons where we're finishing anywhere between 6 and 8 wins. And at the end of the year, we still have a lot of the same question marks that we did about the young quarterbacks going into the year. Let's just flip them while we can before the trade deadline here. So I think when it comes to Ryan Tannehill individually, there's, again, a lot of different connections that you can make. Number one, he has experience working with both Todd Downing and Keith Carter, two coaches on the Jets offensive staff that hold prominent roles, two guys that both came over from Tennessee, and quite frankly, they spent a lot of time in Tennessee. So both are now with the Jets. It's not like Tannehill would be coming into a situation where he's just like, I don't know anybody here. What's going on? What's the vision? What's the philosophy on offense? It's like, no, hold on a second. There's two, again, prominent coaches in-house that can hopefully speed up that process. Number two, Tannehill has playoff experience. He's a veteran. I don't believe at this point, like the NY meet, like it would come as a major shock or anything like that. I feel like Ryan is the type of player to come in at this stage of his career and be able to handle the noise, handle the external pressure, understand his role with the team. And I think it would be a pretty seamless fit. I do feel like it would be a better fit compared to Kirk Cousins, although I think Kirk Cousins is the better quarterback. I think when we're talking about trade compensation, it wouldn't take as much ammunition to go land Tannehill compared to a Kirk Cousins. And again, I think this is because of both of the respected team situations. With Tennessee, it's like, okay, cool, we got two young guys. With Minnesota, it's like, all right, we're going to turn the football over to Nick Mullins. I think that's a pretty tough sell, right, to the Vikings fans, to the Vikings players in the locker room. I just feel like that's a pretty difficult thing to get behind as, a supporter of the Viking, or again, a player or coach of the Vikings organization. Because quite frankly, Kirk Cousins is playing great football. He is lighting defenses up. But with Tannehill, you have that upside behind him that you are just kind of waiting to see what they can do in real NFL action. So we have the no trade clause. We have the trade compensation maybe being a little less for Tannehill compared to Cousins. Number three, we understand the situations that both teams are in, Tennessee and Minnesota. One has for sure options behind Tannehill that they can fill in. Number four here, I think when you look at Tannehill's situation, what that franchise has asked of him to do really since he's gotten there, or at least, taken over as the starter, it hasn't been the Tannehill show. I know he's put up some great numbers, but it's a defensive-led team. It's a Derrick Henry-led team. It's always been about the defense and Derrick Henry. The tough culture, right? Physical, violent, attitude. Mike Vrabel, defensive head coach. And Tannehill was kind of the guy, hey, can you come in, take care of the football, not make mistakes, not go out and lose us the game, make 4 or 5 throws, right? Those critical third downs, those red zone opportunities, maybe make some plays with your legs. And for the most part, understand that you can turn around and hand it to one of the best backs in football, and of course rely on one of the better defenses throughout the past couple of seasons that is being led by Vrabel. And when I look at what the Jets have to offer as a football team, right, just the current state of where they're at, I feel like Tannehill can come in and really do a lot of the same things that he's been doing in Tennessee. The Jets have a good defense. The Jets have multiple good running backs. There is that run first mentality there. There is kind of that element of play action that I feel like Tannehill really, really thrives in. So when it comes to a Cousins versus Tannehill argument, I think Kirk is the better quarterback, but I do feel like at this point in time, right, understanding that it's week 4, the Chiefs game is in a couple of days, how realistic is it for the Vikings to actually want to move Kirk Cousins? And then from there, will Kirk even accept a deal to go to the Jets on an expiring contract? I don't know. There's a couple of big questions there. But with Tannehill, I think when you're looking at really niche or specific question marks pertaining to the Jets, he might check some more realistic boxes. But beyond that, Tannehill has playoff experience. He's not one to really rock the boat. He's not on a big deal. It's, I was reading something today about Josina Anderson, kind of her take and really what she's reporting on the Jets quarterback situation. And one thing that she was saying, the Jets have a lot of financial ties with this team, right? They're paying Aaron Rodgers a lot of money. Zach Wilson still on the team, still getting paid, quite a bit of money because of where he was picked in the draft, 2nd overall. And he's going to be on the roster next year. So it seems like the financial aspect of this is coming into play, right? Whether the fans like it or not here. Personally, I don't like that, but it is what it is. With Tannehill, he is on that expiring contract and he is owed $27 million for this season. He's a $27 million cap hit, which is not horrible in this day and age of, starting NFL QBs. And the Jets also have quite a bit of cap space, right? As we can remember, Aaron Rodgers did take the $30 million guaranteed pay cut. So, if we potentially move a player, release a player, I could see the money aspect of a trade working. Right, I think if Joe Douglas does not want to punt the season and is dead serious and has that sense of urgency, like I want wins and I want them now. I've been here for years on end and we haven't even been 500. We need to turn this thing around immediately. We have too good of a roster to just let it go to waste every single Sunday. He makes the deal for Tannehill. I know there's 2 parties involved. Tennessee they have to want to trade him, and they also have to receive a likable contract, a likable trade package, something that they think is fair and beneficial for them moving forward. A quick side note, Rand Carfin, the Titans' new general manager, just took over there, right? This is his first season in charge, and, he didn't sign Tannehill to the big deal. He didn't trade for Tannehill initially. He's the one who drafted Will Levis, so it makes sense in that regard, and also, if he wants to just get an extra draft pick, aka another one of his guys, it does make sense. So even though I really, really like this trade idea, right, with Tannehill potentially going to New York, I do have 2 issues. Number 1, when we talk about what Ryan has done in Tennessee, it's in kind of how it compares to the Jets, it all makes sense outside of one aspect. And it's offensive line. When you think about the Titans' offensive line throughout the years, it's been pretty damn good. Like, it's been, frankly, great. Just anchors all over the place. Ben Johnson in the middle, you got Taylor Lewan at tackle. Like, they had a lot of pieces figured out in the trenches, and they were a physical team. They would beat opponents down. They would beat down opposing defensive lines. Whereas with the Jets, that's been one of the major problems with this team. Offensive line. Can we run block? It's been questionable. Can we pass protect? It's been questionable. So that's a major red flag. But I'm at the point, right, as a fan, I'm getting Tannehill in-house if the Titans want to make it happen, and then I'm trying to make it work from there. I'm not just going to say, well, we don't have good protection. Not going to do anything now. Not at all. Not in the slightest. My second issue here is really a big question mark, and I hate that I have to ask this because I would like to think that there is pressure from, my favorite team in football. There's pressure to want to win football games, but it's how long are you willing to wait? So far, we have seen no sense of urgency from Joe Douglas. Again, this Rodgers injury happened weeks ago. We haven't even made a single. We brought in Trevor Siemian 2 weeks later. He seems totally content rolling Zach out there. It doesn't really matter what the end result of the game is. Doesn't matter what the statistics say. Doesn't matter what Zach is showing you eye test wise. It doesn't really matter what the vibe is around the fan base or the locker room. He seems totally cool rolling Zach out there. And I get it. He picked him second overall. Optically speaking, you don't want to go through a Trey Lance situation where everybody's, coming down on the franchise and, roasting the pick and this and that. I do understand it from that aspect, but in my opinion, as a general manager of a football team, you have to put the football team before your own individual draft picks, right? If something is 100% apparent, which in this case is Ryan Tannehill better than Zach Wilson, yes. Can we afford Ryan Tannehill if we make a move or two? Yes. Is it something that we can potentially afford as far as trade compensation goes with the Titans? Yes. Then it's something that needs to be explored. Point blank period. I do not want to have this possibility laying out there and us just looking the other way. So that's my big question here. When is this going to be explored? Because this is a big thing here. Not only is the season limited, right? It's not the NBA where we have 40 games left to prove ourselves, 50 games left to prove ourselves. As the weeks go by here, again, we're going to be 4 weeks into the season. Let's say Joe Douglas wants to wait another 5 weeks, 4 weeks. And let's say we win a game, right? We lose to KC, we beat Denver, we lose to Philly, we lose the following week, and just the offense isn't really picking up, or it's not really where we're at. I mean, at that point, if we're thinking about pulling off a trade at the trade deadline, week 7, week 8, I don't want to be in a situation where the Jets have 1 win, 2 wins, because now it's like, all right, we're trading a future asset. Keep in mind, we're not going to have a second round pick. We're trading another mid round pick, maybe multiple late round picks for a quarterback to come in mid season, and then from there, it's going to take, depending on the complexity of the offensive system, I would say more complex for 5 weeks, less complex 3-4 weeks. We're looking at a potential, I want to say 3-game buffer where Tannehill has to come in, understand the philosophy, pick up the system, build chemistry, get in and out of the huddle, get the verbiage down. And again, I do feel like that process is maybe a little bit ironed out compared to other teams because of the offensive coaches in-house already, because it's not like they don't remember what the offense was in Tennessee. They don't remember the verbiage. So they can help smooth out that process. So maybe it would take 2 to 3 weeks to get Ryan on board. But either way, it's 2 more weeks where we have to potentially see bad offensive production. And then it's like, all right, we're taking on Tannehill's contract and what we're only going to get, 8-9 games out of them. I don't want the season to be lost at that point in time. I mean, it feels like it feels right now like we're 2-6, but we're 1-2. As crazy as that sounds, there's so many games left, so much time left to prove ourselves, but I want the Jets to be proactive here. So anyway, I would love Ryan Tannehill at this point in time. I think he's totally realistic. I think trading for him, it makes sense for not only just the Jets, but also the Titans. I don't think it would be a weird dynamic whatsoever in the locker room. And, that way you can put Zach Wilson finally on the bench, which is kind of the initial plan that the Jets wanted to do anyway. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.